Folks, the Council on American-Islamic Relations, the nation's most prominent Muslim advocacy group, was the subject of spying by members within its own organization. An investigation found two informants were releasing private and sensitive information to the Investigative Project on Terrorism, a DC-based organization that many consider to be an anti-Muslim extremist group. One of the individuals is an African-American here in Virginia. Joining us right now to talk about this story, Ahmed Mitchell. He's the Deputy Director of the Council on American-Islamic Relations. Glad to have you here. This was a shocking story. One of your officials out of Ohio, someone had reached out to the organization, said there's a mole in your organization, and through various work, they were able to discover this individual in Ohio. Then there was an individual here in Virginia who was with a mosque here who had, this extremist group had funneled this person more than $100,000 to give them information. They were turning over email messages, recordings, and text messages. I mean, this was a major, major breach of sensitive information within CARE.
Yeah. First, thank you for having me, Roland. And you're absolutely right. So it was a little over a year ago that we first received an indication that there might be some sort of spy somewhere within our organization. A whistleblower alerted us to that possibility. And then in the subsequent months, we were obviously investigating, gathering more information, audio recordings, transcripts that very clearly indicated there was a mole. We were able to identify that mole as the director of our Ohio chapter, confronted him, he confessed, and he was terminated. More concerning than that was we found that this hate group was systematically spying on nearly every other major American Muslim organization and prominent Muslim leaders, including former Congressman Keith Ellison, and doing all this, according to the IPT whistleblower, to benefit a foreign government, the Israeli government. So we have been investigating and releasing information as we get it. There is still more to find out. It appears this hate group was working with certain Republican members of Congress. We've already released emails showing them interacting with Israeli intelligence officials. And obviously, we are still trying to hunt down any remaining spies in the community. But yes, one individual in Virginia did come forward voluntarily to confess, to apologize, and to cooperate. And we encourage anyone who is engaged in this behavior to do the same. Come forward before you are caught.
One of the things that I was reading the story, and the brother in Virginia thought that this was a group who was supportive of Muslims. There's nothing that says that that was the case. And Muslims in this country have been under vicious attack and surveillance since 9/11. And this was one of the greatest fears. And what really shocked so many people was that this happened inside the organization. This was this wasn't, COINTELPRO and the federal government, what they did to black organizations. This was literally another organization that was able to flip individuals on the inside and basically get them to share information that they were then passing on to other groups that don't like Muslims.
Yeah, exactly. And I would note that the surveillance and targeting Muslims is going on well before 9/11. Malcolm X was perhaps the most prominent Muslim who was targeted by surveillance, being stalked and harassed, and it's continued since then. The one thing I want to emphasize is there is actually only one individual within CARE, and that was Roman Iqbal, the director of CARE Ohio, who was engaged in this behavior. The other individuals are completely outside of and unrelated to CARE, and were targeting the broader Muslim community. They were able to touch or spy on or surveil pretty much every major Muslim organization. The other thing I want to emphasize, Roland, is that the great irony of this situation, they were doing this for years, over a decade, and they found nothing damaging about the Muslim community because there is nothing to find. We're doing civil rights work. We're doing advocacy work, interfaith dialogue. The most damaging thing they were able to use was Keith Ellison correctly observing that concerns about the Israeli government dictate American foreign policy in the Middle East. And they leaked that audio when he was running for DNC chair to harm him. Short of that, they have not been able to find anything to harm us. And that's a testament to the integrity of our community and to the dishonesty of these groups, which continually claim that Muslims are a threat and subversive. And they know it's not true because they've been able to see what we're doing internally for so many years. So these are bigots. They're dangerous, and they must be held accountable.
Questions from our panel. I'll start with you, Kelly.
First and foremost, thank you for coming on the show and just explaining to us exactly what this means. I guess my question for you is the level of betrayal that you must feel. Can you expound on that and talk about steps that you are taking or should be taking, will be taking regarding making sure that something like this doesn't happen again within the org?
Absolutely. So, I mean, when we first found out there was a mold, it was obviously very upsetting. We were very upset, but we also understood that we were not truly surprised, should not be truly surprised, because again, Muslims have been targeted like this, and activist groups and civil rights groups have been targeted by this, including by moles. We now know that some of Malcolm X's bodyguards who were there when he was assassinated were agents of the New York Police Department. And so we weren't truly surprised, but definitely there is an intense feeling of betrayal when you find out a high-ranking member of your organization was doing this. And I would note that it appears, we're not sure yet, but it appears this may have been going on since he first joined the organization. In other words, that he wasn't flipped, but rather inserted in the organization after he attended law school for this purpose. That's still being investigated, but it just shows you how obsessed anti-Muslim hate groups are with our community, and it shows you how important our community is. The IPT whistleblower who told us all this, they said to us very explicitly that the reason this hate group was doing this is they are terrified that American Muslims become civically, politically engaged and strong, and then reorient American policy in a more just and humanitarian way here and abroad. And they want to undermine us to prevent that from happening, and they're not going to win. We have been advancing good work, and we're going to keep advancing good work no matter what these people think of it, God willing.
Matt Manning.
My question for you, Mr. Mitchell, is what has been the effect of the FBI refusing to investigate this? What really struck me is that my understanding is the organization reached out and was concerned about laws having been broken through this surveillance and through these moles' activity, and there's been radio silence from the FBI. So how are you addressing law enforcement's reticence to actually investigate this from the criminal element?
Well, first of all, I want to emphasize that as Muslim Americans, we are not waiting for anyone else to defend us or to help us. We are not dependent on anyone else. We are dependent on God, and we rely on ourselves. Having said that, we are Americans, and we expect our government to protect the American people from hate groups that try to spy on and harm Americans for the benefit of a foreign government. So we have been in contact with the FBI. The communications are ongoing. So far, we are not happy with what we have heard, but we're continuing to gather more information and provide evidence. And eventually, I think we're going to get to a point where law enforcement has no choice but to investigate. And I would also note that locally, I'm a former prosecutor. I can tell you there's no question this hate group was violating at least state laws. When you record people without their permission, that is illegal in numerous states. And they were doing this systematically to Muslims across the country, including a sitting member of Congress. So state law violations are clear. The question is, did they violate any federal laws? Were they acting as an agent of a foreign government? If they were, that would be a huge, major federal crime, and that's something law enforcement has to figure
out. Michael.
All right. Thanks, Brother Mitchell, for coming on today. That was one of the questions I had. What local laws were broken? What are local authorities doing? I saw remarks about the press conference on Wednesday and mentioning about the FBI investigating, and the FBI did not immediately respond to requests for comment in the article from the Washington Post, things like this. So what can be done at the local level to hold these people accountable and also make sure this doesn't happen again as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So number one, we're considering all our legal options. I mean, there are certainly obvious and clear potential civil violations that this hate group and the people who spied for it may have committed and should be held accountable for. Obviously, as Muslims, as a Muslim organization, we're used to being targeted. We've got Chinese entities that try to hack us because we speak out against China's genocide of Uyghur Muslims. We've got even Middle Eastern dictatorships that come after us because we speak up for freedom and democracy in that region. So we're not surprised by this. So we already have very strong security protocols, technological and otherwise. The thing we could not protect against was one individual being willing to sell out his colleagues and do it in a very rudimentary way, using a cell phone to record conversations and forwarding emails. I mean, there's really no way to stop that. But the key thing, I think, for Muslims is to do what I think the African-American community did when they were targeted during the civil rights movement. don't turn against each other. Don't become paranoid. Don't start worrying about the person praying next to you or the person sitting next to you in your office. We can't become like that, and we're not going to become like that. So yes, we'll be safe, we'll be vigilant, we'll review our procedures, but we're not going to become paranoid about our neighbors, about our fellow Muslim brothers and sisters. We're not going to let hate groups do that to us. We're going to carry on with our work, God willing, and we're going to continue to advance progress. And yeah, it's going to make them upset, but that's a good sign. It's a good sign they're obsessed with our work. They know our work is important.
Edward Mitchell with CARE. We surely appreciate it. Thank you so very much. When I was in Chicago, I was honored by the Chicago chapter with one of their media awards. I think what came with it was a trip to Turkey. I haven't gotten that trip yet. I need to give them a call.
I'll follow up with them for you, Roland.
All right, Edward, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way. Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
You dig?